If you're looking to get either of these lenses, it's better to buy this kit because you're basically getting the 50mm for free. Hello folks, welcome to Netcruzer Tech. Today I want to talk to you about Canon and why me as a Sony fan, I have primarily switched over to a Canon camera for my studio shoots. Right now, we are looking at a Sony NEX5R. This is a discontinued model from around 2012-2013. The equivalent camera on the market to this one right now is the Sony Alpha 5100. No, it's an excellent camera. It's a nice small form factor mirrorless camera with a power zoom, but there's a particular reason why I'm now shooting on Canon, and I'll tell you why. Over the past couple of years, Canon's done some things that are really off-putting to consumers, and I have not been wanting to publicly recommend getting a Canon for a long time, but they have since seen how much hate there was towards their brand over the past 6 months to a year, and they've now started coming out with firmware updates for the Canon EOS R, the Canon M6 Mark II, the Canon EOS 90D that now restores 24p recording. This is an EOS M6 from about 2 years ago, and this one had 24p recording. But ever since then, all the new cameras that have come out, they started reducing functionality in the Canon cameras. Now, why do I have this one? Store demo, because the M6 Mark II was coming out, so they had to clear out their old M6 options. And this is a pretty stellar camera for what I got it for. I got this for around $450 Canadian. It's a mirrorless APS-C style sensor, 24.2 megapixels with hybrid autofocus. It has the Canon dual pixel autofocus. It has a nice ISO range, a very nice articulating touchscreen. So for the past 6 months or so, I have been shooting on this guy. This is the Canon M6, and there's a couple of reasons why for the price that I found it for on open box discount, I had to get it. First of all, selfie screen. I find that an extremely useful feature. Whenever I'm shooting myself, when I've got the camera set up and I'm talking to it, I need to be able to see if I'm framed properly. There's a particular reason why I'm going to recommend getting a Canon camera. One of those things is lens cost. That is the main thing, is that the lenses cost way less and there is way more variety in lenses that you can get. This is the lens that comes in the kit, a 15 to 45mm f3.5 to 6.3 image stabilized STM lens, which means it has the stepper micro servo. It's a very quiet lens for video, and it does a pretty good job. The other benefit to the M6 is that it does have a microphone in jack. That is something that my Sony does not have, and to get a Sony with a microphone in jack, you have to buy one that is around $1,000 plus. So at this point, I was able to get into a camera that had a selfie screen, a microphone in jack, arguably better autofocus than Sony system, although they are pretty much on par at this point. Sony uses what they call phase detect autofocus. Canon calls theirs dual pixel autofocus. I think from a technology level, they're approximately the same. It's focus pixels that is on the actual sensor itself. So it allows you to get very nice, quick autofocus without hunting. I really like APS-C size sensor cameras. They're a really good price point to quality. You just can't get this type of subject isolation with a nice blurry bokeh background anywhere else. If I want to show something to you, oh yeah, look at that, that's beautiful. It knew that I was showing something in front of my face, and then you take it down and it does face lock, and that was pretty quick. In this type of lighting conditions, this is crazy good.
I don't know.
Holy. Now, one of the major things about Canon APS-C size sensors is they are smaller than every other manufacturer. So Sony and all the others that have APS-C size sensors are a 1.5 crop, and this one is a 1.6. That's just something to be aware of, is that Canon's APS-C sensor is smaller than the others. I'm not going to get into too much here about the Canon camera, but I just want to talk about some usability and versatility features, which is why I'm using this camera now. This is the kit lens that it comes with, the 15 to 45mm. Very good lens for just shooting indoors and getting the wide angle shots that I want. The EOS M mount lens also has a couple of very unique lenses that you just cannot get in the other lens mount systems. This one is my favorite, and I do want to make a separate video just about this guy. This one is a macro lens, a 28mm, and it has a particularly cool trick up its sleeve where it can be its own light. And it's got brightness adjustment, and it has where you can have just one side. It's meant for doing macro shots, so it allows you to get up close to a subject and then your shadow would normally be over the subject that you're trying to get up a really close shot of, so it allows you to turn the light on, and then you can get your macro shot and not cast a shadow over it, because normally you would be casting a shadow over what you're trying to get a nice close-up macro shot of. So that's what's super cool about this lens. I believe it's the only on-camera lens with its own built-in ring light. Super cool, as well as this lens itself is very sharp when you're not shooting in its macro mode. So it is useful as a normal 28mm prime lens. It has macro ability and it has super macro ability for getting like up to millimeters close. It's pretty darn cool. The 28mm f3.5 prime image stabilized STM lens. So that means that this lens is also good for getting video. That's the only other native M mount lens that I have. It's a really cool lens. I also got this one open box discount. Look on Amazon Warehouse for open box discount returns. I got this for a couple $100 off retail price. That's where we're getting at here, is that the Canon ecosystem is much more affordable for getting lenses. This Sony I had for years, and I not once bought a new lens for it. On the Canon system, within the first week, I got 3 additional lenses, because then I also found this excellent kit, which is the Power to Create 2-lens bundle, which gives you the 10 to 18 ultra wide angle lens and the nifty 50 portrait lens. If you're looking to get either of these lenses, it's better to buy this kit, because you're basically getting the 50mm for free. If you try and buy this wide angle lens just separately, it goes for around $350 to $400, versus the nifty 50 can go for around $100 sometimes. So with this kit, you're paying the same prices just for the wide angle lens, and you're getting the nifty 50 for free. I also found on Amazon open box, and it's working great. I've been using this for many things. Now, there's one thing you need to be aware of with these lenses, is that they are not M mount lenses. These are using the older style EF-S, EF mount lenses. So I can't just natively put this mount onto this camera. It does not work. You have to get an adapter. But luckily, the adapter is very cheap and it works very well. The adapter is currently on the ultra wide camera right now. So I'm just going to show you what the adapter does. It's just a stepper ring, but it also passes through all of the autofocus abilities. And you can get this for around $30 on Amazon. This is the Comix CM EF EOS M. So it takes a M mount and it adapts it to an EF mount while passing through all of the stabilization and autofocus abilities. So you just mount up your lens, and now we've got the 10 to 18 EF-S mounted to the Canon EOS M. And this lens I really like. I've used this one as an outdoor shots. I've used this one for in-car shots because it gives you a very wide angle view. Almost like a GoPro, but you get a higher quality because you can also adjust your focus and depth of field. Very nice lens, 10 to 18 millimeters, f4.5 to 5.6. Also, this one is image stabilized. And all of these lenses are autofocus that works with the Canon dual pixel autofocus system. And lastly, we've got what is lovingly referred to as the Nifty 50 for Canon people. This one is a 50mm f1.8 portrait lens. Now, all of these focal lengths that I've been talking about are based on a 35mm camera. So when you're shooting on an APS-C size sensor, you have to times it by 1.6 for Canon, 1.5 for Sony. So this 50mm becomes the equivalent of around an 85. The 10 to 18 becomes like a 15 or 16 to a 24. You just have to be aware of that when you're shooting on an APS-C size sensor. So within just a few months, here's the setup that I've got. I've got a 50mm portrait lens. I've got a 10 to 18 wide angle lens. I've got the super cool macro lens, and I've got the 15 to 45 kit lens. This setup is extremely useful. You could do almost every kind of shot that you would need with these lenses. Looking at about $1,200 worth of equipment here based on the prices that I paid. That's in Canadian money, which is a bargain. Getting this type of equipment in a Sony setup would cost probably $3,000 to $4,000. Their lenses are usually $500 and up. And a lot of the Canon lenses are around $200 and up. So there's a couple of zoom lenses in the range that I do not have. There's a 75 to 300, which is not very good. And then I believe there's a 50 to 250, and that's the good one. So I am looking for the 50 to 250 on a deal someday. I might pick that up. But overall, I'm quite happy with this setup. Most of the time I'm shooting on kit lens. When I want to do something fancy, then I'll break out one of the other lenses. Now, before I run out of time here, there's a usability issue with the Canon M6. Quickly, a couple things about it. I do use the onboard microphones a lot, although they're not very good and they're quite hissy. The Canon preamps are not nearly as good as this Sony is. The Sony has far superior audio. Sometimes I try and work around that by plugging an external microphone into the Canon. That is good. And you do have adjustable mic gain. As I had shown on a previous Canon SL2 DSLR video, you can get in here and you can turn down the mic gain in the settings when you're going to run external microphones to get a better audio quality. To me, the M6 build quality is higher quality than the M50. Now, a lot of people prefer the M50 because instead of a flip up screen, it has a flip out screen where it's a selfie screen to the side, which to me, that is more useful because by having an upper flip screen, that means that anything hot that you want to plug into here blocks the screen. The last thing about Canon cameras is the batteries. There's two primarily types of batteries that come with the Canons. The M6 actually uses the better batteries. This is the LP-E17, and this is the bigger capacity battery. The M50 uses the small E12 battery, which is not nearly as good. So I do get a long runtime on this. It runs a surprisingly long time. This Sony that I'm shooting on is already down to 20% battery, and we started at about 50%. It chews through battery fast. This one is very efficient. I do like that a lot. But there's one usability problem with the Canon cameras, is that almost none of them allow USB charge. Even though this camera has a micro USB plug, you cannot charge it through that plug. There's a workaround for that as well, and that is this kit by Newer. It's the two-piece 1250 mAh LP-E17 battery dual USB charger. And what that allows you to do is to have this little docking station. It does charge over micro USB, and you can just put in the batteries. And not only do you get this little docking station, which allows USB charge, you also get two batteries as well. Now, these batteries are designed to be a higher capacity than the stock ones, but in reality, I think that we've got some China lying going on here with capacities because they last about half the length of the stock battery. But the point here is that you've got now 3 batteries, as this comes with both of these in the kit, and you now have a docking station which allows USB recharge. I've seen people talk online about why do you care that your camera doesn't charge over USB? You can just plug it into a wall socket. No, you can't. Not when you're out in the field. And out in the field, you can carry a USB battery bank with you, and then you can plug the USB battery bank into this charge dock, and now you can recharge your camera batteries without being close to AC power. And that is a big deal. All right, guys, if you enjoyed this video, hit that like button. If you're new around here, subscribe. If you want to talk to me, leave a comment down below. And as always, thanks for watching. And if you're looking for any of this type of equipment, I'll put links in the description, as this stuff is fairly cheap. This is a set on its own on Amazon. This adapter is super useful to adapt from EF to EFM. And then we've got all the Canon lenses that you can get, which is pretty awesome when you can find bundles. M6 still available clearance in some places, but for most of the retailers, you're only going to be able to find an M6 Mark II, which is technically better. And now that they've done the firmware update, it does everything better than this one does, but it also costs 2 to 3 times as much.